When we first heard about how the Hypomon works, first of all, the fact that it's non-intrusive, so there's no discomfort to Tess at all. It was really enlightening for us that there was something out there that could notify us that something was happening to Tess. The simple case of it being an alarm.
Like recently starting to use it, it's helped a lot. Like we've had a few hypos and it has alarmed us and it's woken up mum, and she's coming to me before it has gone too low, before something bad could have happened, and it's just a lot easier to know before it gets too low and then something extremely bad could happen.
Yeah. It's a great preventative, and that's all you're really asking as a parent, that something is there to be able to step in before things get too bad. 3 or 4 tests during the night affects not only Tess the next day, but my husband and myself. And, you know, we have to go to work, we have to, you know, function normally. You know, work don't care if, you know, you're going tired from something like this. So that broken sleep is the hardest. On ourselves, my husband and I, you know, we're very tired all the time. Then we get grumpy with the kids. So it's a snowball effect. If you don't get your 8 hours sleep, the next day is going to be affected. And then that becomes an emotional volcano that, you know, he's tired, I'm tired, Tess is tired. Her 2 sisters don't understand why we're so grumpy. And it affects the whole unit of the family. So to have that peace of mind of not having to get up and test, or having that peace of mind that Tess will be all right during the night, is a huge relief to us. Well, before we had the Hypomon, Tess actually had a few lows, and that's really scary. One, if we go in and it's happening and we're testing and we can see it happening, we can fix it straight away. You know, we wake her up and we give her something to eat and drink. The scariest part is if it happens and we don't hear Tess. I mean, once Tess is actually called out and I have not heard her, and that was really scary, because Lana heard you, didn't she? And Lana came into the room, her older sister. So I must have been so asleep that I didn't hear her. And then the other one, Tess, has actually come up and walked from her bedroom into our bedroom. And when we did test her, she was 1.9. Now, huge concern at 1.9 is that Tess really shouldn't have been able to walk. So for her to walk from her room to our room, yeah, that was probably just her will to come in and get us. But a big concern for us, or a scary part of that, is if Tess had have been in a coma or fallen at that 1.9, that hypo. We're asking that Tess can have unbroken sleep, we can have unbroken sleep, and have the peace of mind that if something goes wrong, that Hypomon or the alarm is there to let us know, so that we can put into action and fix a hypo before it happens. So as Tess's levels are dropping during the night, the Hypomon actually alarms us before they get too low. And that's a huge concern as a parent, that if she consistently goes low, the complications that arise from having type 1 diabetes and having constant hypos, you know, there's huge consequences for Tess's future. So if we can stop those from happening by getting into the routine of using the Hypomon, and it alarms us before it happens, in the future that gives Tess a better quality of life.
Hypomon is comfortable when I sleep because you can't really feel it, and being able to roll around and it not coming off is a plus as well. So it stays on during the night and it helps as well.
Obviously, Tess gets invited to sleepovers. The first 2 years of having type 1 diabetes, we actually didn't let Tess go to sleepovers or be away from us. So using the Hypomon and its mobility is the fact that it's portable enough that Tess can actually take it to the sleepover. She can use it herself. It's easy enough that she can enter the data, go to bed, and the alarm and the monitor can be beside her. And if anything happens or she drops low, it will wake her up with the alarm and the lights. So that allows her that more freedom and that independence to be able to join in with other kids and just do a normal thing like a sleepover.
Using the Hypomon for about, how long? It's probably been 2 months, and it has helped so much that I do recommend it for younger kids as well, and for people in my age group to actually try it and use it and like actually get the fact that it's trying to help manage your diabetes as well, which is good. And it's just another tool to help you and another like friend to watch out for you as well. So yeah.
The biggest worry for me is that Chloe doesn't wake up to her symptoms of the hypoglycemia in the night, and that something more drastic can happen. Therefore, we usually up a couple of times in the night to test. We have to make sure that her sugar levels are at a certain point before she goes to bed. And then, you know, there's a 2 a.m. test, which disturbs everybody's sleep. If she does wake with symptoms of being low, then we'll do a test every couple of hours until morning, which is no fun for anyone. It's good because we can put all the information in before we go to bed, and I usually do a test just prior to myself going to sleep, and then I don't have to worry about testing unless it wakes me up and tells me to, so which is good. It means I don't worry about it during the night. Chloe gets a good night's sleep, and hopefully we wake up in the morning with no events in the night. We've had a few instances. Chloe's only been diagnosed 18 months, and within that 18 months she's probably had 3 or 4 instances of a hypoglycemic during the night. But I'm pretty careful that I test her before I go to bed and make sure her levels are right to avoid that. But when she's wearing the Hypomon, we don't have to worry, because we do our last test when I go to bed, and then it will alert you once her body starts going down to lower numbers. It would be good for instances where she was away from home and she's not in that particular routine. Obviously when she's at a friend's place, or we had school camp when she started year 7 this year, and that would have been great to have it then, because you know, that's a whole different routine to normal, and they were running around like crazy things for a couple of days. We have recently been to Bali and used it a couple of times there, which was great. We were in actually separate rooms, and it picked up the signals from next door in the other room. The difficulty we found with that was not the machine, it was trying to work out carbs in Bali, what your carb count was and all that sort of thing. We try to have her at a target range at night, but it's not always possible. So, you know, with the Hypomon, you can plug what she's in at, and it does all the work for you. You don't have to worry in the night. Chloe, you'd have to say about being comfortable, because you're the one that wears it. But you want to say?
It's pretty comfortable. At first it can be a bit hard to get used to, but it doesn't bother me at all during the night.
So the monitor that we have in our room, you put all the information in, and off you go. It's very easy to use, very user friendly. It's very well set out on the screen. It's pretty easy. And we've had a couple of times when it's woken us or woken me, and I've gone in and tested her, and she's been, I think one time she was 4.3 and another she was 4.8. So, you know, she was heading down, and we were able to give her some snack and a Milo, and she was right for the rest of the night. So as far as I'm concerned, it did its job well. When they're away from home, and it's a big thing to ask someone else to look after that sort of an issue when they don't know what to do. You'd have to be able to explain to the person, you know, this is what happens, that's what happens, this is what they've got to do. And they're not even sure whether they're supposed to wake them up in the night and that sort of thing. But if they have the monitor on, it's all, you know, they can just, the parent has the monitor part of it and beeps at you and off you go. So, and Chloe's confident enough in what she's doing that she doesn't need a parent to help her do her tests, or doesn't need, you know, she can see, oh, well, I'm 4.3, I need to have something to eat. So she can do all of that stuff herself. It's just the initial being roused from sleeping, I guess, so that it doesn't continue to drop and then turn into a hypoglycemic, which is then difficult to treat especially when you're away from home. So for, you know, camping and sleepovers and even holidays like our trip to Bali recently, it would certainly be something we would put in our suitcase.
if something's happened during the day, like I've done lots of exercise or the test before bed has been a bit weird, then I usually worry about what's going to happen through the night. But with the Hypomon, it's just
it's going to do the work.
Yeah.
The monitor that Chloe wears will then alert you when her body starts to drop. So it's much better than a blood sugar test, because it's it's showing you where it's going rather than what it is at that particular time. So that's important too, because if she can do a test and be 8, but she could be on the way down, or she could be on the way up, but you don't know unless you do a follow-up test. So that takes the worry out of it a bit, rather than having to do 3 or 4 tests during the night. You hear some horrible stories about children just not coming out of comas and things, and so anything that you can use to stop that worry is worth its weight in gold.
I love it. It's just great because usually my mum would be worried, so she'd be waking me up every hour, but the Hypomon tells mum exactly when she needs to do a test and when it's going down.
We had our clinic visit just before we went to Bali, and I was telling the educators and the people down there that we were doing the trial, and they were very interested in it. And for us, we haven't had any issues with it being inaccurate, or like every time it's alerted us, it's her blood sugars have been going down. As far as we know, it hasn't missed any hypos in the night, and I think you usually can tell by the readings in the morning, so I think we would know if there was any missed hypos.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it because it's good for everyone. Like, it helps
Family.
Yeah, it helps everyone in the family.